George Lucas, the man, the myth, the legend, savior, conqueror, hero, or villain, depending on who you ask, has moved on from Star Wars, and the franchise has moved on from George. He'll still pop up every now and then for a brief cameo, smile for a picture, maybe even drop a bit of advice, but the guy who created a galaxy far, far away isn't steering the ship anymore. Big shocker, right? Over the years, we've heard rumors that he'd return to save Star Wars, and to be fair, he's had his hand in a few things, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But overall, Lucas just said the quiet part out loud. Even going back to 2014, you can kind of see the growing distance, maybe even a hint of resentment toward what his creation had become under Disney. That's what we're going to be talking about today, the timeline of George's slow separation from his own galaxy. Not every example, because then that'd be a 3 hour film essay, but some of the key moments where you can see that disconnect set in. I used to suspect, and I still kind of do, that there's a non disclosure agreement of sorts between Lucas and Disney, something keeping him from outright criticizing the direction of the franchise. Whether that's true or not, with his public comments over the years, I mean, you can tell he's definitely been holding back a lot more than he's been saying. So let's take a look at the most recent quote, the entire thing that inspired this video. So in this 2025 Wall Street Journal interview where Lucas talks about his new passion project, the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art, opening in 2026, he's poured $1 billion into this thing, and it's his new baby, not Star Wars. This is what he had to say about letting go of the franchise. Disney took it over and gave it their vision. That's what happens. Of course I moved past it. I mean, I've got a life. I'm building a museum. A museum is harder than making movies. And then when they asked if Star Wars would be a big part of the museum, Lucas laughed it off. He said, "It's one gallery out of 33, and I did it grudgingly. I didn't want people to come and say, 'Oh, where's the Star Wars?'" Wow, one gallery out of 33. Lucas clearly set his sights far beyond, lightsabers and X-Wings these days. But the exhibit will feature an N1 starfighter, which, I mean, fine, cool. But can't we show the B-Wing a little bit of love?
Just jokes, folks.
This is honestly nothing new. Let's just go back to the early days of Disney's Star Wars to see how long Lucas has been checking out. So this TMZ clip is from June 6, 2014. Wow. I was in high school whenever I first saw this, and now I'm pushing 30. Jesus Christ. Back then, George Lucas was dodging questions about Episode 7 leaks, and this is less than 2 years after he sold the franchise for $4.05 billion. And at this point, The Force Awakens wasn't even out yet. The expanding universe fan base was going at it with these absolute NPC bots who kept parroting dumb shit like, "You're gonna watch it, you're gonna like it," and now nobody likes Star Wars in its current state. Great times these days were.
Lucas, I gotta ask, the pictures leaked of the new Star Wars. I mean,
I'm retired.
are you bored of retired yet? Are you bored yet?
I'm really happy.
Do you still get creative thoughts? Like it's like you just want to get back into it all? I hear you, man. Well, good seeing you, bud.
So even back in 2014, as The Force Awakens was ramping up, Lucas was avoiding the subject of Star Wars and trying to ignore this TMZ guy, which I don't really blame him. Now let's talk about the big betrayal, which could explain his reluctance to talk about the movie. So when Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney in 2012 for $4.05 billion, he handed over story treatments for Episode 7 through 9, and he expected Disney to build on his vision because that was a big narrative, right? Oh, they're going to stay faithful to George Lucas's scripts and his vision and everything. Well, I can tell you right now, spoiler alert, they didn't. So this article from Forbes in 2019 talks about Bob Iger's memoir, The Ride of a Lifetime, in which he spills the beans. When Lucas met with Disney to go over the trilogy's direction, he felt betrayed. George immediately got upset as they began to describe the plot, and it dawned on him that we weren't using one of the stories he submitted during the negotiations. He also agreed to consult, but Iger also said that Disney was under no obligation to use his ideas. So that kind of set the tone for a rocky relationship, and, Lucas it seeped out a bit over the years. Come December 2015, around the time The Force Awakens dropped, Lucas sat down with Charlie Rose and he kind of let his frustration slip.
They looked at the stories and they said, "We want to make something for the fans." So I said, all I want to do is tell a story of what happened. It started here and it went there, and it's all about generations, and it's about, the issues of fathers and sons and grandfathers, and it's a family soap opera. I mean, ultimately, space, we call it space opera, but people don't realize it's actually a soap opera. Yeah. And it's all about family problems and it's not about spaceships. So they decided they didn't want to use those stories. They decided they were going to go do their own thing, and so I decided, fine, but basically, I'm not going to try to. They weren't that keen to have me involved anyway. But at the same time, I said, I'm not going to. If I get in there, I'm just going to cause trouble because they're not going to do what I want them to do. So, and I don't have the control to do that anymore. And all I would do is muck everything up. So I said, okay, I will go my way and I'll let them go their way. And it really does come down to a simple rule of life, which is when you break up with somebody, the first rule is no phone calls. The second rule, you don't go over to their house and drive by to see what they're doing. Yes. The third one is you don't show up at their coffee shop or the things what you're going to run in. You just say, no, gone, history, I'm moving forward. Because every time you do, and you know, we all learn this from experience, every time you do something like that, you're opening the wound again. And it just makes it harder for you. You have to put it behind you, and it's a very, very, very hard thing to do. But you have to just cut it off and say, okay, end the ball game. I got to move on. And everything in your body says, don't, you can't. And these are my kids. So
all those Star Wars films.
All the Star Wars films.
They were your kids.
Yeah, well, they are. Right. You know, I loved them. I created them. I'm very intimately involved in them, and obviously to
and
sell
you
them
sold
off.
them.
I sold them to the white slavers that take these things and.
Okay, but having said all that, and having talked to you for the last, and known you for a while, and admired you, I mean, it must hurt you.
Well, no,
it's your family. It's the last story. It's your story.
But
it's
in the end,
you.
But I knew there's 3 more stories, and I knew that was going to probably take, you know, to do it right would take about 10 years. And I said, I'm 70. I don't know whether I'll be here when I'm 80. You know, every 10 years, the odds get less. And so I said, and I'm not ready to do that because I want to do these other things. So I have to make the decision on my own that it's time for me to move on.
White slavers, he said. And then we didn't know it at the time, but after seeing The Force Awakens, he kind of doubled down, you know, going back to Bob Iger's memoir. This 2015 Screen Rant article references Iger's book. Lucas watched the film and he wasn't impressed.
I'm not impressed by your performance.
There's nothing new. In each of the films in the original trilogy, it was important to him to present new worlds, new stories, new characters, and new technologies. In this one, he said, there weren't enough visual or technical leaps forward. And this is coming from George Lucas, mind you, the guy who revolutionized film with his company Industrial Light and Magic, saying this, and he wasn't wrong. TFA was just nostalgia bait, recycling the plot of the original trilogy and then, you know, rehashing the Death Stars and everything in Starkiller Base. And it wasn't even just Force Awakens. Lucas skipped, you know, The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker premieres. And in a 2021 interview alongside his wife, Melody Hobson, he puts it bluntly, that he lost control of Star Wars.
I don't know. I mean, I've kind of lost control of Star Wars, so it's going off in a different path than what I intended. But the first 6 are very much mine and my philosophy.
Going back to the Screen Rant article, and of course, they're trying to push this fucking EU was never canon narrative.
George Lucas never cared about canon. He didn't like the EU. It was never canon. He never considered it canon.
A well-worn debate, to be sure, but going back to the topic, to be fair, Lucas wasn't totally checked out. I mean, you know, according to Gareth Edwards, the director of Rogue One, George really liked the movie Solo and even visited the set, where Ron Howard said he was really supportive. He even advised on The Mandalorian and showed up on set for that one as well. But let's not get it twisted. These are exceptions, not the rule. I mean, you can tell he's salty about the sequels, even if he won't outright trash them, and who can blame him? And then real quick, can we talk about the irony? Fans trashed the EU's Dark Empire for bringing Palpatine back, but then Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker did the exact same thing.
Ironic.
So what's the takeaway? Pretty evident, right? George Lucas moved on from Star Wars years ago, and his recent Wall Street Journal interview just confirms it. From calling Disney sequels retro with nothing new and dodging premieres, now his big focus is on his museum that barely even nods Star Wars, 1 out of 33 galleries, and it's been clear for a while now. He created this galaxy, sold it for billions, watched Disney tarnish his vision. His frustration isn't vocalized in its entirety because, as I said, he was holding things back, but it's definitely there. I've got a life, he says, and he's 81 now. I'm sure it doesn't shock anybody who's followed the saga since 2012 or even long before that, but especially people that have been following very closely what Disney's been doing. The man handed over the keys, and the cars had some wild mileage with more than a few crashes. Whether you love or hate Disney Star Wars, I think Lucas's detachment is something many of us can relate to. Sometimes you just gotta let go. But what do you think? Do you blame George Lucas for moving on? Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, comment your thoughts on Lucas's exit, and subscribe for more content like this. That's all for today, folks, and may the Force be with you.